Hey, I'm Dave here with KDN. We're here at TX2K with Aaron Lopez, and we're gonna present you our new shifter for the H series platform. We're gonna be doing a step-by-step video for you guys to follow along. Let's open this guy up and see what's inside. So first, there's the hardware box, which is the top one. So you can take that out, put it to the side. There's some badass stickers.
That's always the most important part.
Yeah.
Stickers.
And there's the shifter. This shifter doesn't have a knob on it because it's a special tread pitch for Mr. Lopez. So we're gonna just put this box aside. Here in the hardware box, I'm gonna put it towards you. If you open it, there's cables. There's real badass keychain. You got your both hardware kit. One's for the transmission, one's for the base plate. You got the transmission bracket. Everything's powder coated to match the shifter. And you have this little guy here. This is going to be your new transmission pivot, we can call it.
Sure, yeah. It's going to go on the actual shifter.
This is where your cable is going to attach to.
Right.
And there's the base plate. This one has a provision for a staging brake. So everything is in the same spot and it's nice and clean. And that's pretty much it. There's cables with cable end. The cable ends are already on there.
Those are spherical ends?
Yeah, they're billet cable ends with spherical bearings. Okay, so we're gonna install this trans bracket. This is the bracket that's gonna be holding the shifter cables. And I wanna talk to you guys about these three spacers because there's different lengths. The smaller one goes in front and the two tallest one goes in the back here. And you can use the three supplied bolts to put it all together. I find it easier to put the bolt in, put the spacer, and then hold it as one and go down and start the tread. I like to bring it close to where it's tight, but you can still move it, so it's easier when you slide the spacers under because you don't have to hold this bracket with your other hand. Second spacer, the long one. Just put it under. Slide the bolt in there. Get it started. This one is the spacer that goes in front. Right here. We're gonna put, oh, it's a little tight. I'm gonna try it on this side. Put the bolt in. We're gonna get this guy tightened up.
So if you want to move the gear selector lever to weld the pivot plate for easier welding, you can remove it out of the car. You would just take out the 4 10mm screws off the top to remove the cover off the gear selector cover here. Then you have a 12mm bolt down here. It's already loose. So you would remove that there, and then of course you would just slide the gear selector out.
The transmission stud for cable A, we got it apart here and out the car so it's easier for you guys to see. The bearing has a really tight tolerance, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna polish it up a little bit so it slides in real nice. So once it's all nice and cleaned up, just go ahead and put a nylon there, slide the spherical bearing over it, put the second nylon, and go ahead and put your clip in there. That's how it should look. So here we have the gear selector lever. Aaron took it out the car, so it's we can show you guys better. But this can be done in the car. Here is the KDN pivot plate. You put it on there. There's a spacer that comes with the kit. Put in there, you put the clip back on. And here, you want to put some weld on there. You can do just the corners or the whole thing. It depends on what you want. But you want to weld these two together so they don't move and there's no slack and it's nice and sturdy. So Aaron went ahead in his mobile welding shop and he put down some welds here on the gear selector lever. So now it's nice and sturdy. It's not moving. It won't go anywhere. So it's a lot easier when you preset the cable in the shifter and then slide them into the transmission tunnels. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So these guys with these cable ends, these are the one that goes on the shifter side and these are the one that goes on the transmission side. Where the sticker is always the closest to the shifter. So we're just gonna take it off so we can slide it in the shifter. You only have to remove one nut and one washer on each cable. So on every KDN cable, there's always the platform and then cable A and cable B. Cable A is your side-to-side throw cable. So it's the left one. So once you got the washer and the nut off there, you can just put it inside and you can flip the shifter, take the nut, the washer and the nut, put it in and get the nut started. So just get it snug in there because we're probably going to be doing adjustments further on this installation. So we're going to go and we're going to do the same thing for cable B, which is your front to back throw. Okay, so now that the cables are attached to the shifter, this is how it should look. So you can now attach these cable ends to the shifter arm and the shifter linkage. So there's always a long one and a short one. The short one goes on cable A, which is the side to side. So thread that on there all the way in. We're just going to put everything snug so at the end when everything's all set up we can cut back and tighten everything back. So now that it's attached to the cable, you can connect it on the side to side pivot here. This is all 10mm wrench. So now you can see where it goes. It's all tight and nice. Here's a good tip when you set up your cable. Try to set it always like mid-travel. So this is your first point. Here, if you retract it, this is your other, let's call it like a cable limit. If you put your end and you go half of it, this would be the middle of your travel. You can mark it with a Sharpie so you don't have to look back at it a few times. We did that already, so we know. So now you can thread it into the bottom of the shifter rod. So we're gonna just go ahead and tighten up that cable end. Here we can lock the set screw, the jam nut. We'll do that on both so it doesn't go loose and the cable lose its adjustment. So now the cable all are attached to the shifter. Now we're ready to put it inside the car. Here we are in Aaron's car. We're about to install the base plate. Just want to show you guys there's 4 spacers that goes under. There's 2 long ones and 2 short ones. The short one will go on the back of the plate and the longer one will go in the front of the plate. We're gonna have to drill 2 new holes in the front, but we are gonna use the stock one for the back holes. So we're gonna start with the shorter spacers. Like the transmission bracket, I like to put the bolt first, put the spacer, and kind of hold everything together with one hand. Slide it over so you can use this finger to kind of feel where you're going, so you can get it started. Then you can come over and slide the second spacer under, like that. Take your second bolt, get it in there, get it started. So we're gonna take this 5mm Allen key. We're gonna get it snugged up. We have to make it straight because we need to drill the front holes. We have to make sure that it's straight so we don't drill holes and the plates end up all crooked in the car. So here I'm gonna use this cool little center punch to punch our front holes. Try to be in the center as possible. I like to make it twice so the punch is nice and deep. Same thing on the second hole. Now we're gonna take the base plate off, drill those holes, and now after that we can put our last bolt for the base plate. So right now Aaron's under the car holding the nuts. Usually it's gonna be supplied with the kit. There's gonna be 2 rivet nuts that you can put in the floor pan to avoid having to do that, having your buddy to crawl under the car to hold some nuts. That's what we did today. So we're gonna tighten those 2 front ones, and the base plate installation is gonna be done. Awesome. Now we're gonna get the shifters and cable inside. So we're just gonna fish the cable together at the same time, so it's easier. I got the cable ends off. It's just something that I do. The hole that you're going to be fishing them into looks a little tight. You can always remove the jam nuts, so it gets in easier. Let's put it in. Aaron is making sure that the cable goes exactly where they need to. There you go. We're sitting pretty. So we're gonna go ahead and put the 4 nuts to hold the shifter to the base plate. Gonna do the other one here. This one's a bit more tricky because the cable sits right on top of it. And the rear ones. We're gonna remove the faceplate to put these 2. It's gonna be a lot easier, and we're gonna need to have this plate off to set the lockout later on. So it's we'll do that. And now that the faceplate is off, we're gonna put the 2 last nuts. We're gonna grab a 13mm wrench, get those all tightened up. So we just fished the cable in, and we noticed that it's going to be way easier if we loosen the trans bracket that we previously installed, and we got the 2 rear bolts out. So the cable that moves freely is your cable B. It's the cable that's going to run under the transmission bracket. So make sure you have enough room here. It's going to make things easier. So you can unscrew these nuts, lift this guy, put it in there. Make sure your cable isn't in the way of anything like wiring harness and whatnot. And you can go ahead and put back the washers and the bolts. We're just gonna get it snug like we did last time. and we'll put this one last. We're going to finish all our adjustment, and then we're going to put this one last. So we're going to put the second cable, cable A, on the trans bracket. So on your initial setup, try to have the trans bracket plate, the one that's the cables are sliding, try to have it in the middle of the bulkhead. The bulkhead is the threaded part, this from here to here. Try to have it in the middle. It helps when it comes to making adjustments. So we're gonna put back the billet cable ends. If you left it on, don't worry this step. But since we removed them, we're gonna put them back on. So the transmission has a spring in it. The shifter also has one. So you want to put, when the spring is not under tension in the shifter, you want to make sure that you don't like force the transmission to put the cable in, because then both springs are just going to be fighting each other instead of working together. So here we got that in, and see we're good, but we are a bit on the long side. So what we can do to fix this, we can come over to our bulkhead, back our bulkhead a little bit into our bracket, so it's going to make our cable shorter, and our springs are going to be happy. We can put it in, and we're not forcing the springs of either the shifter or the transmission. This is a really important step. So once you made sure all your adjustment on cable B are nice, you can go ahead and put your first nylon in, put your rod in, put your second nylon in, and if you have a spring pin or a cutter pin, whatever, just go ahead and put it in. Once you put back your rod end on and your studs on the bracket, obviously, just go ahead and put one nylon, slide your rod end onto this stud, hold on, put your second nylon in there, and then grab your end hairpin clip, lock everything up. That's it. So now we're going to talk about the importance of all the adjustment. Now all the cables are hooked up. We can cycle the gears, make sure it goes in all the gears nice and smooth. If you have a transmission with dog gears, make sure they're all in line. If you have to rock the car back and forth a few times to get it going nicely in the gears, you should do that, because it's going to be important for when we get to set up the lockouts. But right now I want to show you it's working. Like for a street car it will be all right, but see how the shifter arm is not straight? See how the shift arm isn't straight? We need to correct this and make it straight, because the lockout won't work if we leave it that way. There's a few ways to make it straight. You can either, now that it needs to go that way, it means the cable needs to be longer. So you can either go on the transmission, make the cable longer by unscrewing your cable end, or doing the same thing here. But we're gonna go quick and easy here, and we're just gonna move our bulkhead in front of our shifter, and that's gonna fix our problem. So we're gonna go in the front of the bulkhead. We're gonna loosen this jam nut, swing it this way, and tighten this one. What it's gonna do, it's gonna move the cable this way, and the top of the shifter is gonna move the opposite way. This is a 24 millimeter. We're in the pits, we don't have that, so we're just gonna take our adjustable. Get it started. Once it's loose, you can move it and see how far you need to go to get the shifter straight. This seems like a good spot. We're just gonna turn out, jam that forward till it touches the front of the case. Then you can go inside, turn this one the most you can, wiggle the cable, and then just lock the outside one. So now we have our straight shifter. Can try it again. Everything's nice and crisp. We can start to adjust the lockouts. So there's two lockouts. We have the 1-2-1 lockout that's on the side, and we have the 2-3-2 lockout here that you can also use to lock 5th, 6th, or reverse, depending on your application. We're gonna start with this one. The way to do it, grab yourself a 2.5mm Allen key. You have to move these set screws in. So if you want to make the 2-3-2 lockout work, the lower set screw, you're going to want to thread it in until it almost touches this block. Okay? And remember to always put Loctite on these. What it's going to do is you're not going to be able to move into the 1-2 position unless you lift this collar. Once you lift this collar, then you can go over the set screw. And once you get out of first, second position, like in third gear, this collar is going to go down and it's going to go against this set screw. So there's no way to get back into the 1-2 position. So if you want to lock out 5th, 6th, or reverse, it's the same thing as we just did on this set screw, but on the other side, it's going to be this one, the lower one. Just push it in until it barely touches this center block, and it's going to lock out everything that's on that side. You're going to have to lift this collar to go over the set screw to get into reverse or 5th or 6th. So we're going to set up the 1-2-1 lockout right here. We're let's put the car in the first. Again, like if you have a transmission with dog gears, make sure they're all the way in. We're gonna release the lockout. We're gonna go in second. Right now it's not set up right because the plunger is not all the way in. This guy, it has to go all the way that way and down. When you get out of first, second, and you're holding it towards you, it needs to lock right there, and it's not doing it right now. So we're gonna make a few adjustments to make that happen. You can adjust the slide position with this 10mm bolt here. Threading that bolt in will make it travel more inside. And there's also another way. So you can use your second set screw that we showed you earlier. And you can go in the first and thread it in, and you can push the shifter a little more towards the center. It'll give you some gap down there. You have to make sure you're not too much centered that you're forcing against the dogs. Now, right now, I think we're all right, but we're gonna go ahead and make adjustment on the 1-2-1 lockout because we're almost there. So as you can see, we're really close. We're only missing a tiny bit here. Like I said, some people will call it good enough, but it's not good enough. We gotta have it perfect. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna thread that bolt in, this guy, just a little bit. Let's run it again. So first, second, a little more. So again, first, there you go. That's what you want, instant lock. So this is how it should look. You go in the first gear, you pop this guy up. Once you go in second gear, it locks. It's all the way towards you, and this little lever is down. That's what you want. You got to keep pulling it towards you. So from there, you can only go in third gear, and fourth gear. You do your burnout, you do all your stuff, you get to the line, you put in first, you release this guy. This should have Loctite too, it shouldn't move. And then you leave off the line, you go in second, it locks. That's what it needs to do. Lock right away. And from there you can only go in third gear and fourth gear. Because out of third, our collar here is dropped. You can't go in any other gears than fourth. So just a few tips here. It's really important to put back the faceplate, because when you don't have the faceplate on, like for adjustment, you can see here when you push on it, there's some flex on the top of the case, and if it starts flexing on you, the lockout might not work like it's supposed to. So get this guy back on there, and you won't have any problem. On a side note, it's really important to keep this well lubricated. You want this to move freely all the time, and there's a fitting in front of the shifter here, a little ball valve. You can get some good grease in there, make sure everything moves freely, and you'll be good to go. So that's the end of our step-by-step install video for the H22 platform. Very happy to be bringing new parts to this platform. So if you have any question or need any help, send us an email at sales@kdnperformance.com or send us a message on social media. We'll be happy to help.